Okay, if I can grab your attention. I know a couple more people will be coming in as we start, but we wanted to get out of the way. Welcome to our first workshop. First out of a series of 4, and then we have the 5th one that sort of brings it all together. But this is exciting. This is where we start you into the process. Before we get into it, I introduce you to the person who's going to be leading tonight. I want to do a couple of, little housekeeping notes. First of all, we're going to keep inviting you out to our workshops. We have a standing date, if we can use that word, every Tuesday from here on in. And the great HELIX group will be sending you messages on Eventbrite for you to remind yourself to put it in your calendar. But when you do, please go on and say, yep, I'm registering for this event. All right, so we know who's going to be here, who's not. That's very important. Second, if you have feedback for us, you can connect the same way, or you can send it to me directly. It's chris.dudley@senecacollege.ca. All right? After tonight's workshop, I'm going to invite you to come up and tour the space, the HELIX space that we have upstairs. It's an exciting place. A lot of work has gone into it for you to grow your ideas. So afterwards, please stick around and we're going to do a little tour. All right?
So every time Seneca HELIX send us an email about the invitation of a workshop, we have to register ourselves?
Yes, please, just so we track who is going to be here. Sound good? Fantastic. Just to also let you know, we have a marathon session coming up on the 29th. You don't have to attend this unless you've missed one of the Tuesday workshops, because life happens. So if you need to, we'll send out information on the marathon session, and you can come in just for whatever workshop you missed on that day, okay? So don't be upset if you missed one of our workshops on the Tuesdays. There will be a marathon session for you. All right? Okay. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Frank Foster, who is right there. Frank is a serial entrepreneur. 30 years he's been doing this. He's been an entrepreneur. And something that is quite unique about him is that he's had one business. Many entrepreneurs start, crash, start, crash, start, get it right, start going, crash, and then start again, and that's where it goes. Not Frank. Frank's got one mission. He's honed it. He's adapted it. He knows what he's doing, and he keeps going. It's never crashed. That's pretty amazing. 30 years. For 30 years. Yeah. For 22, he's been teaching here. He's been teaching a number of business courses for us because he has tremendous knowledge in a number of facets of business and entrepreneurship. It's great that you're here taking your time and providing your wisdom. So without any further ado, I give you Frank Foster.
Thanks very much, Chris. Okay, neither of us are mic'd up for sound. We're mic'd up for the video camera there. So if during the event you can't hear me, just yell out and I'll try and speak a little bit louder. My voice does carry usually to the back, but I just want to make sure. My topic today is planning. What I wanted you to take away from today's session is, all right, I've got this idea for a business, and where do I go from here? What do I do? How do I go from, boy, what a great idea, to actually launching it, getting it in the streets? I don't mind sharing with you, the idea is the easy part. The hard part is the doing. The hard part is going from, hey, I have a great idea, to how do I get it out in front of my customers and the public. There's a great expression that says if you don't know where you're going, you'll wind up someplace else. So what we're going to try and do today is sort of give you a roadmap of where we're going, the steps and what to do and how to do it. The handout that you have there is a kind of a working document in that there's some fill in the blanks and there's some pages there that you can use as we go through this. Many of you may not be ready yet to do these type of documentation. Your idea may just be, boy, I've got an idea up here, how do I take it to the next steps? And you may not be ready yet to be doing the documentation stuff. But what I want to do is to plant some seeds. I want you to get an idea of the next steps and where we go from here. So where are you going? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself. Where are you going? So if you look at your handout, the first page in your handout, you'll see these statements are here. Well, what is your business going to be? What's your mission? What's your business model? How will you protect your intellectual property and assets? What strategic plans will you need to develop and use? And who will be your target customers? And how will you find and qualify them? Whether we like it or not, I better back up here a little bit. One of my clients is the Ontario Self-Employment Benefit Program, OSEB, the Ontario Self-Employment Benefit Program. And I've worked with them for probably 10 years now. These are people that have been on unemployment or employment insurance and are starting a business from scratch. And I always say to them that the last thing they think they are is in sales. Well, I'm sorry, if you don't sell, you don't eat. I mean, that's what entrepreneurship's all about. If you're not selling your business or selling your services or selling to people, you don't have a business. So my background, just Chris told you a little bit about my background, but Frank Foster & Associates is a sales training company. That's what I do. I train companies all over North America on how to be better salespeople. And I work with about 75% of my business is based in the US, but about 25% is here in Canada. And I've worked with large companies, IBM, Lutron, large organizations, right down to little ma-and-pa, 2, 3, 4 people companies. So the concepts are the same. Whether you're an IBM or whether you're Frank's Auto Parts with 3 people, it doesn't matter. The point is that you have to look at who your customers are, how you're going to find them, and what do you have to do to get them to sell them. All right, well, let's talk about the planning process that we're going to look at today. Well, the first step in the planning process is establishing a business purpose. In your mind, I'm sure many of you have a concept of what your business is going to be. So what we want to do is to try and take that from, okay, here's my idea, to a more formal or a more concrete or a more established idea of where you want to go. How many people have taken marketing? Marketing 108, marketing 2 and 3? Okay, so you all know what a SWOT analysis is. You've all had that in your marketing courses, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. How do you put your plans together? What are some of the resources that are available? Where am I going to get information? What information am I going to use? Why would you need a business plan? What would be the main reason for a business plan? What do you think? What main reason for a business plan?
To have an idea of what to look forward to.
Know where you're going, what you look forward to. Why else? Good answer. Why else?
Keeps you focused and aligned.
It gives you focus, so you know where you're going. Sure. What else? Was somebody back there said? No?
I don't know, minimize the risk.
Minimize your risk? Sure, absolutely.
It's of interest to banks if you require a loan.
That's the answer I'm looking for. Who needs it more than anybody? The bank. When you go to get money, when you go to borrow money, unless you're independently wealthy, when you're starting your business with a whole pocket full of money, many of us, most of us in this room, at some point or another will have to go to some sort of a financial institution and say, here's what I need the money for. Well, the document, the business plan, and the formulating your strategies, a lot of that will be what you're going to use when you go and sit in front of that bank manager or that lender or that person that you're talking to. And then how do we put these plans in place? So we're going to look at these four components here. Well, let's start with the first one, establishing your purpose. What's your vision? what do you want your business to be in the future? Where do you see it in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? If you said to me, Frank Foster, what did you want your business to be 25 years ago, it probably wouldn't look anything like it does today. That's just reality. I started Frank Foster and Associates as a market research company. That's what I started. I was doing research. I was working with people like Seneca College and doing research. And over time, I found that people, they needed more training than research. So then I got into the training business in a bigger way, and then I evolved into Frank Foster and Associates, and I currently have four sales associates, and we are out selling sales training and marketing and customer service programs all across North America. So what's my vision? What's your mission statement? What's that mean? It's a description of your organization's purposes, goals, and philosophies. And the last is your value and your goals. What's important and appropriate when conducting your business activities. Let me give you a sample. This is a pretty good sample. Seneca College. Seneca College developed a mission value statement of 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, and this is what they say. Their mission is to contribute to Canadian society by being a transformational leader in providing students with career-related education and training. Pretty big, broad statement. Our vision, we are recognized as leaders in student success, access to higher education, learning, applied research, innovation, our commitment to people, and our commitment to diversity and equity in employment. What's our values? Our values are quality, learning, responsiveness, teamwork, inclusion. All of those are part of what makes up Seneca's vision statement, mission statement, and their values and goals. It's not a bad template to follow for your own business. So when you're thinking about how do I create my mission statement or my value statement or my goals where I want to go, that's not a bad template to say, okay, it's a big company, Seneca College, but the concepts are good. Oop. That didn't go back to where I want it. Go back up there. Okay, so that's Seneca's missions and goals. All right, well, have a look at your own. On the page on page 3 of your handout. What's your purpose? What's your vision? And what are your values and goals? If you have an idea now, this is a pretty good way to start, just to start writing some things down. If you don't have any idea whatsoever, that's fine too, but just think about those 3 things, because you need to know where you're going, otherwise you'll end up someplace else. So take a moment and just jot down some notes to yourself. Okay, I think I'll move on to the next area here. In this circumstance, it's a takeaway handout. You can continue to work on this as we go forward in the next workshops and between now and when the program starts in January. How will you know if you can fulfill your goals and mission? But one of the things you need to do is a SWOT analysis. For those of you who had marketing, you know the SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are an internal evaluation, how well we do or don't do, and opportunities and threats are an external evaluation, what's going on outside of our marketplace, outside of our company. So our strengths and weaknesses are within our controls, opportunities and threats are outside of our controls. There are other things that are happening. This is a small graphic up here, by the way, with a really interesting mosquito in the middle of it. When I scanned this, apparently there was a mosquito on my scanner. He got part of the program. But this is in your handout. It's a pretty good one-pager that summarizes strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the strengths might be things like the potential assets that you have, your price, your value, your quality. It might be patents or strong brand names. It might be good reputation, financial reserves, location. It might be management, could be philosophy and values. Your weaknesses might be the lack of capability or expertise versus the competition. It might be poor financials, don't have the money. It might be lack of competitive strength. You don't have something that makes you different or unique. It may be morale or lack of morale. It could be your IT or your support systems might not be as good as others. Opportunities, again, external, would be things like foreseeable changes that could favorably affect your company's competitive capabilities. Things like niche target markets, competitors' vulnerabilities, changes in government regulations, changes in marketplace regulations. Could be industry and lifestyle trends, social media changes, things like that could be all represent opportunities. And threats could be things, the conditions that negatively affect a company's competitive capacity, things such as the economy. Again, government may become involved, IT developments or changes. Think about those people that were in the telex business and then in the fax business and what has happened to, anybody have a fax machine anymore? I mean, it's only one generation ago of communications, yet in 10 years it went from everybody had a fax to nobody has a fax. So if you were in the fax machine business, that marketplace changed pretty dramatically, pretty quickly because of IT. Interesting, 2 or 3 of you are in my classes now. I showed a video a few weeks ago of a sales video. And let me borrow your phone for a second. The person that was doing the salesperson had a phone that was a flip phone. The top flipped up. And everybody in the class said, that's only 5 years ago. In 5 years, it went from a flip phone to that type of phone. But that's a pretty big change in technology. What if you were the flip phone? What if you were the guy that had that? Well, that's a pretty major threat if the industry changes and technology changes and the marketplace changes and society ideas changes. So that's what I'm talking about when we look at threats to your environment. I also encourage you to do this for your competitors. So a SWOT analysis for your business and a SWOT analysis for your major competitors, whoever they may be. What do they do? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What are their opportunities and threats? And you may also want to do this for the marketplace, the big marketplace that you're in. What's happening in the marketplace that you're competing in? So make sure that you understand what your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats are. How can strengths be used to capitalize, and how can opportunities be exploited and threats be mitigated? What business model? Oh, sorry, before I do that, page 5 in your handout. You'll see this putting SWOT to work. Again, I'm not going to do that now, but that's a worksheet for you to be starting to think about what you can do to fill in the blanks for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So that's a pretty good starting place for you to be doing a SWOT on your own business and your competitors. What business model? What works for you? What's the right model? Most people in this room, let's use me for example. I'm Frank Foster and Associates. I'm not incorporated. I'm an entrepreneur, self-employed, my wife I guess is two employees. And then I have a number of commissionable sales associates who aren't employees. They get paid a commission on sales that they sell. So I'm a sole proprietor. And I'm not limited, however, I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you one thing that I do, because I'm not limited, I'm not incorporated, I don't own anything. Frank Foster doesn't own anything. If you said to me, show me your assets, you're kind of looking at it, that's about it. I don't own my car, I don't own my house, I don't own anything. My wife owns everything, okay, so she's got everything, but she's not the principal in the company. Why do I do that? Because my accountant and my lawyers told me way back, if you don't own anything, it's pretty tough to get anything from you if there's any form of legal activities. So I don't own anything, and I haven't for years. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is the bank doesn't like me very much. Because when I go to the bank and they say, well, what are your assets, Mr. Foster? Goodwill, the company name. They kind of don't put much value in that. So there's advantages and disadvantages if you're going to be a sole proprietor and you're not incorporated, and you're just be aware of that. Partnerships. Perhaps you've decided that you'd like to work with someone. Advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are it splits the work, it gets some strength, you get their strengths, your weaknesses. The downside is that you need to make sure you have a partner that's going to be around for the long term and that you work well together. You could do a general partnership and a limited partnership. You might also decide to be a corporation, incorporated with a board of directors and have people that are involved with your company from an advisory standpoint. You could be a public corporation or a private corporation. Public corporation obviously is one that's traded publicly. Private is there's no stocks that are out there or no shares that are traded in the public world. What's the best? That's up to you. However, next page in your handout 6. You'll see there's a pretty good summary of the different options that are available to you, and the strengths and the weaknesses and what's good and what's bad. If you just look at the documents that are needed to start a business, if you're a sole proprietor, it's none. You need a business license, you need a bank account, but other than that, there's very little documentation, probably a business plan. If you're going to be in a general partnership, you need an agreement. If you're limited, you need a written agreement. If you're a public corporation, you need articles of incorporation and bylaws. And if you're a private corporation, you need articles of incorporation bylaws, and they must meet certain criteria. I won't go through each one of these blocks except to say this is a pretty good summary, a one-pager of what the advantages and disadvantages are. If you look at risk of losses, in a sole proprietor, it's unlimited liability. In a general partnership, same thing. In limited, it's limited liability, and so on right across the piece there. If you're sole proprietor, you're taxed personally. Your income that you receive from your business becomes your personal income, less deductions. So when you do your T4, when you do your tax return at the end of the year, you're going to have your income from all sources, including your own business and your net expenses that get taken away from that. Now, I'm not an accountant, and some of you, there may be people in the room that are or know accounting better than I do, but I do highly recommend under any of these business models that you do find a good accountant that you're comfortable with to talk to and work with, because they can save you a lot of headache and a lot of work, and you do not want to be on the wrong side of Revenue Canada, of CCA. They're once, I'm going to tell you tales of the school, once you've been flagged, they usually will come and visit you again. I've been there, done that. Okay, so just make sure that you have a good, strong accounting personnel to help you. The downside, employee benefits. If you're a sole proprietor, usually very few. I do encourage you, when your business is established, to do things like health insurance. Go to some of the private, like Manulife and those kind of companies, who provide health coverage and income replacement insurance and those sort of things, because things happen. And if as a sole proprietor, particularly if you're providing for your family or someone, it makes sense to do that. So these are all a pretty good one-pager that you can use. Bottom of that page, page 6, what's your thoughts? What kind of model do you think you'll choose, and why? So just take a moment and fill that blank in. So how are you going to protect your property, your properties? How are you going to protect your intellectual properties and your real properties? How do you do that? Well, first is a patent. Patent is a legal document that protects your ideas and inventions. So you need to file a patent with the patent office and that to claim that this is unique and that no one else is doing this. The second is a copyright. Copyright is used to protect written materials. So if you've written a book or you've written a concept of your ideas, you would copyright those materials. And the third is trademarks, which you would use to protect your company name or brand. And you may want to trademark your brand or your company name so that others can't copy it. Others can't use your brand or your company trademark. A trademark, by the way, can be many different things. It could be a color, it could be an image, it could be a statement. For example, the Nike swoosh, you know, the red check mark, that's a trademarked symbol. Microsoft, interestingly enough, Intel, not Microsoft, has trademarked sound. I'm not much of a singer, so please bear with me on this. But there's 4 notes that they use in their commercials and in all their advertising. Doom, 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 doom. Intel inside. Those 4 notes are trademarked as a protection. So you can't use those 4 notes, doom, 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 in a song. Well, I guess you could in a song, but not if you were Frank's Hot Dogs, doom, 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 doom. You couldn't use that because it's trademarked, it's a sound. Colors, images.
What if one uses it?
What if what?
Someone uses it.
Then the company, in this particular case Intel, would have probably a cease and desist order to tell you to quit using it. And if you continue to use it, there's probably some legal challenges that they can go after you. A friend of mine was the legal counsel for Coca-Cola, and he spent all his days chasing people who used the Coke or Coca-Cola trademarked brand on stuff. So I mean, you go to any flea market or anywhere, and there's all kinds of stuff that is Coke stuff. You know, Coke hats and Coke shirts and Coke stuff. Probably not legally acquired. So that was his job, was to chase people with their trademarks.
I was just going to say, I guess the question on that is licensing or a type of agreement with the company that allows that.
You would have to have an agreement, yes. Good example. In my past, way back, I was in the food business, and one of the brands that I sold was World Wrestling Federation, WWF peanut butter. And I went to Titan Sports and got the license to use WWF peanut butter and 6 of the wrestlers, their images, but it was all signed off. I couldn't use an image of Jake the Snake or AC/DC or the Ultimate Warrior that wasn't, quote, an approved image, right? So I paid a royalty for that, and I was able to use the brand, but under a licensing agreement. So yes is the answer, you can. And perhaps if your brand gets strong enough, that's something you may want to consider, is licensing agreements. You can't be everywhere with it all the time, so maybe somebody over here wants to use your product on a licensing agreement.
How long does it take to get a patent?
The question was, how long does it take to get a patent? I, unfortunately, am not the right person to ask that question. Does anybody know that, Chris, or anybody?
I know trademark is approximately 2 years.
2 years to trademark?
Yeah.
A patent is a little bit more complex because it usually involves drawings and how things work. So it's a far more complex process. Anybody else?
Oh, I guess the difference between the registered and the TM is, well, it's in registration, you get the R, and after it's an official trademark, that's when you get the TM.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else know that? Samir, any idea?
The patent?
Yeah, for patent?
Yeah. I think it depends on what sort of patent you're going through, because if it has to do with one industry versus another, there's different processes. I've heard like a year for some, I've heard 2 years, I've heard a couple of months, so it really depends on what industry and how intricate your patent is.
That's a question for a patent lawyer, someone that specializes in doing that sort of thing. I'm nowhere near that, so Okay, I wish I could give you a better answer, but I think it depends on the industry is a good answer. So, okay. All right, let's talk about strategies. What did we do before Google? Somebody said to me, well, what did we do? Used to use our minds. Yeah, that's a good answer. Somebody said, well, I used to go to the library. I never went to the library. I can't remember going to the library to look up stuff. I guess we just walked around in ignorance. We just didn't know. But now that you've got this new stuff called Google, you may have heard of that. You've heard of Google, right? How many people have Googled in the last 24 hours? Put your hands up. Don't you wish you had a brand that became a verb? When a brand becomes a verb, I Googled you. Boy, that's a pretty important piece of people's lives. I mean, we're using that all the time, everywhere. Oh, the perfect example, 5 to 8 years. Okay?
And it will shrink depending on what industry.
Back to the comment here, but depending on the industry. Okay? Does that help? All right. Business plans. We're talking about developing and coming up with you're formulating your strategies about where you want to go. What's your target market, or who is your target market, and your customer profile? What are the trends that are affecting the marketplace? What's going on in that marketplace? Who are your competitors? What is your USP/UVP? I'm going to come back to most of these. How will you market your product? What's your plan? How are you going to go from, hey, I got a great idea, to getting it in front of the customer? What's your projected sales and your market share? And how are you going to price yourself? This is one of the hardest things when you're starting a business, is understanding your pricing. It's really difficult to say, well, I want to be the cheapest guy on the street. Well, yeah, okay. But I don't care what you sell, there'll always be somebody cheaper than you. There's always going to be somebody out there that's got a better price than you. I don't care who it is. So do you want to be at market, above market, below market? How do you price yourself? So it's very difficult to figure that out. And expenses, back to my accountant again. What are your expenses? What's claimable? What are the things that you should be aware of? And when you're doing your business plan, how are you going to state those in your plan? I want to give you a website. I don't know if you may want to write this down, but I'll just click on here. This is, to me, Frank Foster, probably one of the simplest and most complete samples of a business plan out there. Now it's somebody else. It's not Seneca College. It's a proprietary. It's the not opening is what it is. It is CBDC. Let's try this again. Let's go to page 2. Nope. I think it's just opening.
Click on the right-hand top, open with different viewers.
I haven't got my glasses on, so I'm going to be able to see that. Say again.
There's just on the right-hand side, it says open with different viewer. And then just click on it.
Thank you. CBDC business plan. This is a practical guide to helping you develop a business plan. We don't have either the time nor the ability to do that today, but this is a pretty good template for if I wanted to write a business plan, what should I include? And so this is what I have used in the past, and it's, I'm going to go to my pages here. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. It's also available en français. It includes the getting started, what you do. It includes the studying the market, the planning a business, your ownership and management, financial, market summary, personnel requirements, that is, forecasting assumptions, your cash flow over the 12 months, financial statements, et cetera, et cetera. And I do encourage you to look at this and understand that it's a template that you fill in the blanks. It's all there. You just fill it in. Pretty easy. But it's got to be your ideas. You've got to do it. You've got to figure it out and how to put this information in there. So I encourage you to look at this plan. When you finish it, it gives you a document like this with numbers and numbers and numbers of pages, but it's a pretty good document on how to start and develop a business plan for your business. So is that in your handout? No, let me give.
The website is, but
The website is. No, that's what I meant. The websites are good. Okay, the website is there, so I won't go any further. That's the website. It's in the handout at the top of page 5, 6 maybe. Top of page 7. Marketing. Most of you in the class in the room have taken Marketing 213, Marketing 108, 106. This concept will not be new. This is something that you should be aware of. Marketing 101 says you focus on a target consumer or customer, and then you adjust your marketing mix to meet the needs of that target customer. You need to have the right product. You need to have the right pricing strategy, you need the right promotional strategy, and you need to have the right distribution strategy, getting it into the hands of the consumer. If you don't have one or more of those 4 Ps that makes you better or different than your competitors, why would I buy from you? So this is very much involved with doing your planning. You need to understand the external influences that are affecting your business or potentially the technological environment, the economic environment, the competitive environment, the resources and objectives of your firm, the cultural and social environment, and the political and legal environment. If this looks familiar, it's because it was borrowed from Basic Marketing, which is a textbook which we have used here at Seneca College for many years and still continue to use in some sections of the college. I used that same textbook and this same graphic 43 years ago at Humber College. Okay? A long time ago, I took the same concept and saw this there. So it's been around for a long time. Why? Because it makes sense. You need to understand the external environments that are going to be affecting your business and how you need to adjust your internal mixes to meet your target market. All right, so let's do a sort of an overview of that. You need to know who your customers are and the needs and how you're going to find them and segment them. Let me just go ahead. A couple of slides here. Who are your target customers? So when you're developing your business plan and when you're getting ready, you need to understand who they are, where they are, et cetera, et cetera. Things like their segment based on their needs, their psychographic needs, the geography, and the demographics. Marketing 101 says, you look at the big target market. So here's all the potential people, customers that might buy my product or service. And within that are smaller, identifiable, sustainable segments that are smaller, more, quote, bite size, more able to target more specifically. And they could be based on any one of those things. They could be based on needs, the rate of use. Let me give you an example. How many people here drink coffee? Okay? Keep your hands up. How many people drink more than 3 cups a day? How many people drink more than 4 cups a day? So 3 is kind of our maximum. How many people drink maybe 1 every couple of days? Okay, so there's a segment based on usage or needs. 3 cups a day, 1 every couple of days. You said 1 every couple of days? What kind of coffee do you drink?
Columbia coffee.
Say again?
Columbia.
Columbia coffee. So the new dark roast is, you like that, okay? What about the people that are 3s and 4s cups?
McDonald's, Jimmy's, Starbucks, organic, whatever.
Anything that's going out there, right? Why do you drink it? I need the hit. I need to get going. It's my energy drink, right? So that's two different segments. One based on because I like Colombian and its flavor and it's good, and one because I need the hit. I need the rush. I need the caffeine. Hit me. Okay? Those are two segments. If I'm going to be trying to target, I'm going to pick on this lady here. What's your name, sorry?
Yvonne.
Yvonne, am I going to pick on Yvonne here? If I'm going to target you, boy, I'm going to be saying this will get you up and going in the morning. Come on in here, we'll get you going. If I'm going to be target you, I'm going to be talking about great flavor and some marvelous taste of our coffee. Two different segments. So that could be rate of use. You could do it based on familiarity or brand familiarity, or benefits sought, or the purchase situation. Let's stick with purchase situation. Retail or online. So there could be a retail type target segment, or there could be a e-commerce type segment. Or there could be somebody that does both, like somebody shopping at Chapters, for example. Chapters has kind of got themselves a little bit confused because they're doing mortars and bricks stores, but they're also doing online at the same time. Tough to do both. It's very difficult to do mortars and bricks and to have the online presence, because your online presence will steal from your mortars and bricks, and eventually you won't need the mortars and bricks. So maybe that's their plan. Maybe that's where they're going with this. And a different competitor base too, because Amazon would compete with Chapters.ca versus who's left? Indigo, the same company. Indigo and Chapters competing with each other. So the mortars and brick people. It could be psychographic needs, their attitudes, their beliefs, their interests, and their opinions. We've just had a marvelous example of psychographic beliefs in the last 2 weeks. An election. You based your vote on a lot about your attitudes, your values, your beliefs, your interests, and your opinions. And so did you vote? I don't know who you voted for. Did you vote for Mr. Tory if you're in Toronto? Did you vote for Mr. Tory, or did you vote for Ms. Chow, or who did you vote for and why? Those have a lot to do with your psychographic needs. It could be geography. Let's say you're selling, I don't know, lawnmowers. You're selling lawnmowers. You could have a push type lawnmower for somebody who lives in downtown Toronto, who's got a small, 20 by 30 lot, or you could have a sit-down ride-on lawnmower for somebody who's in Aurora, who's got 3 acres. Geography. Sticking with geography, maybe it's mountain climbing equipment. You're not going to sell much mountain climbing equipment in Toronto. Why? There's no mountains. Going to sell lots in Calgary. Geography has a lot to do with that. Population, regional differences. Canada's a great country. We've got marvelous expanse of country, but a lot of regional differences. It's a very difficult country to market in, because you've got Newfoundlanders and Maritimers, you got Quebecers, you got the Manitobans, you got the Albertans, you got British Columbians, and then stuck in the middle you got us, Ontarians. Doesn't even sound right, does it? Ontarians. Well, I'm an Ontarian, right? What the heck's an Ontarian? So there's different regional differences, and so you have to understand that when you're segmenting. It could be based on demography, income, age, gender, family size, occupation, education, ethnicity, social class. So each one of these target segments might have a different, or in some cases an overlapping similarity, and you need to understand where you're going to target. It's very difficult to be all things to all people. It's very difficult to have an organization that sells everybody. So you really need to focus a little bit to make sure you're understanding who your target customer is. So segmenting and targeting we're talking about here. Your company objectives and resources. What do you have available to you? What finances do you have? What resources? Maybe you've got proprietary information. What are your competitors, both current and prospective, and what makes you different than them? Bottom of page 9 in your handout. I want you to think about this. Where are you going to find customers? What do you think are going to be some of your sources of new business? Where are you going to find customers? Just take a moment and write down, I don't know, or where do you think you're going to get customers?
By targeting the need of your targeting the needs of your target market, you'll get customers.
Where are you going to find those customers?
Wherever that target market is.
Okay, how are you going to find that out? That's good questions. If I understand the need then, and I use that as a target, how do I find those people?
Maybe by doing like market research surveys.
Market research, absolutely.
That's all I can think of, market research.
Okay, well, that's a good answer, market research. But again, you may have to get out there and ask questions and ask people and do some surveys and stuff. Yep.
So what if you've identified your market segment and your customer, and you're trying to do market research, but because of the nature of what you're researching, people getting sick, needing help, you're finding it really hard to get responses, you're not able to people talk about it, would a retroactive survey be as effective?
How retroactive?
Talking to people who, let's say, have already had family members with Alzheimer's and say, would you use these services? As opposed to
Now, people,
now, will you use these services?
you may have to. There may be circumstances, particularly with things like that type of illness or drug-related illnesses, that sort of thing, where people don't want to talk to you. They don't want to talk about it. So you may have to go to post as opposed to pre. You understand what I mean by that? By go backwards to find out.
Any other thoughts on that?
Is there any secondary data out there? Any data already collected that you know of?
On specific illnesses, yes, but not really in general.
Okay. I would look and see what's out there as far as if there's any data been collected. Just marketing 101, two types of data, secondary and primary data. Secondary data is data that's already been collected by somebody else and you're using it for the second time. Primary data is data that you actually go and do the surveys and find out yourself. So you may have to do research to find the research, okay? Doing it particularly with certain things like that, primary data may be difficult, may be tough. I'm not trying to discourage you, I'm just saying it could be a challenge. There's two things that you want to be able to do. I'm going to go way over here. This is my last slide, but I'm going to put it here. This is Frank Foster's 2 keys to success. 1, you need to have an identifiable, sustainable target market. You need to know who they are and are they going to be around for a while? Are they sustainable? Is it a large enough segment to support your business? If it's 61 people in all of Canada, it's probably not big enough to support your business. If it's 61,000 people, that's probably a big enough segment. So is it sustainable and is it identifiable? Sometimes it's difficult to get identifiability for things like where they're located or past. They don't want to talk about their past. Maybe it's, this is not a good example, but maybe you're trying to service people who've been in prison, right? Well, nobody wants to tell you that. They don't want to talk about that sort of thing. So that may be tough to identify them, okay? And they got to be around for a long time, for a while, in order to support the marketplace. The next thing I want to look at is differentiation and positioning. Before I leave this topic, Chris was just mentioning that there are lots of resources available through the HELIX program. And in January, when they're in the program, they may have access to research. Do you want to just expand on that a little bit? Research resources?
As I mentioned, I'm going to quickly reiterate. We are providing mentors around this. We're providing workshops. We're providing a great space for you to connect with, a portal for you to connect. But as I mentioned, understanding your needs and your strengths and providing it to this community that we're developing. So if you have a particular strength and you can help out another group, please do so. And if you need help in a certain area, shout it out, and then somebody with other strengths will help. Kate, in the back, came up with a great idea that moving forward, what we'll do is at break, we'll use this to write up needs. I'm looking for someone in this area or help in this area. And this community can help out as well as our mentors. So that's important. We will be providing other resources and connecting you with websites and books and so on and so forth as we walk through this process together. And as I said, at the end, we're just stick around and we're going to take a quick tour of the space as well. Okay?
Thank you, sir. So, differentiation and positioning. Ask yourself this question. What is your greatest strength in the marketplace? The thing that separates you from everyone else. What makes you different? And how can you use that strength to further penetrate the market without losing ground to your competition? Ultimately, what we're talking about is a USP. Now, USP is kind of an older term. Unique sales proposition or unique sales point, or it's what makes you different. Back to my marketing 101. If you don't have a better product, service, if you don't have a better value position, if you don't have a better communication model, or you don't have a better distribution model, why would I buy from you? I probably wouldn't. I'd either buy from your competitor or I wouldn't buy at all. So you need to have one or more of these 4 Ps, which give you a unique sales point or a unique sales proposition. Now, I want to add a word here, and that word is take away price for a second and add value. Now what we're talking about is you need to have a UVP, a unique value proposition. It's no longer acceptable just to have a better product, price, promotion, and distribution. You really need to be able to demonstrate to the customer why that's valuable to them, what's in it for them, what's the value to them to buy your product. So what makes you stand out in the minds of your customers? What makes you different than your competitor? We already talked about selecting or choosing target market or target markets. There's an S on the end of that because maybe you're going to go after 2 or 3 or 4 segments. Leanne? Was it Leanne? She said, get a mouthful. She said that she may go after 2 different segments, one being individual consumers and one being the people that take care of the individual consumers. So there's 2 distinct target segments, each with different needs, maybe with different pricing, maybe with different positioning. So you may have more than one segment. You may have a bunch of segments that you're going after. And each one of them may have a different requirement for product, price, place, and promotion. In your handout on page 8, you will see this strategic decision areas that you need to look at. The product areas. Things like your physical goods, your service, your features, your benefits. A feature is what something does or is. A benefit is what it does for you. People don't care what you do. They care what you do for them. People don't care what your features are. They care what your features do for them. Let me give you an example. Anybody have a new vehicle? Anybody bought a new car? Anybody got a newer vehicle in the room? Did you buy a new car? Tell me about your car. What kind? Kia? What model? A Rio? Okay, and what color? White. And leather or cloth interior? Cloth. AM, FM, stereo, CD, MP3 player? Power windows, steering, brakes? Did you go to slider? No slider, okay. Is it parked in the parking lot? No, but it's in your parking lot somewhere, in your driveway. Okay. Why did you buy that car? You could have bought a Hyundai or a Toyota or a Honda or something. Why did you buy that car? It was least expensive. So you looked at the value and you said the value of this Kia Rio is better than a comparable Toyota or Honda or Hyundai or whatever it might be. Okay? So you did it on value. I could find his car. That car is going to be exactly the same for me as it is for him. It's going to be a white Rio with black cloth interior, AM, FM stereo, cassette, CD, MP3 player, power windows, steering, brakes, exactly the same, no changes. Features don't change, they're generic. But I might buy that car because it gets great fuel economy. I might buy that car because when I drive it, I look marvelous. I might buy that car because it's got a good resale value. I might buy that car because it's got a big trunk and I got all kinds of stuff I have to carry around. I might buy that car because it's got a high safety rating. People buy for what's important to them, not what the product does. So when you're doing your product positioning for your 4 Ps, you really need to understand what are the benefits? What would the customer get out of that feature? If it's online business and it's you're able to make it, quote, easy for the customer. Okay, how? Save them time, save them money, save them looking around, whatever it is. You need to be able to customize, if you will, the benefits. The quality level, the accessories, installations, instructions, warranty, product lines. Are you going to have one product or 61 products? Is it a small one of, or many, many different types of products? Packaging, branding. On the place, what are your objectives? Of all the 4 Ps, now remember I said this, of all the 4 Ps, the P that people do the worst job on is the P for place. They don't understand how they're going to get their product into the hands of the consumer. And that's what place is. How am I going to get my product from manufactured or built or service over here into the consumer's home, the customer's place? That's one of the hardest things to put down on paper for your business plan. You got to think that through. I'm a teacher. I'm a professor here. I get marketing plans all the time. I've got this next week. I've got a marketing plan due Thursday. I got a marketing plan due from all of my Marketing 320 students, who 2 or 3 that are in the room. And part of that is they have to tell me what the 4 Ps are, and almost always the P for place is forgotten about. They don't tell me how it's going to get from the warehouse into the hands of the consumer, or where it's manufactured and how it's going to get down the line. I'll come back to this because it's an important part of this. What's the different types of market intermediaries? The people that are going to be, are you going to sell it to a wholesaler who's going to sell it to a retailer who's going to sell it to the consumer? Again, I'll come back to this in a second. Is it how you're going to transport it, storing, service levels? Many people in the room are talking about services, so that's a little bit different than a tangible product that you're going to be selling. All right, so how are you going to deliver that service? If it's you, if you're the service, I'll give you an example. I was talking to a gentleman recently who's developed a stock tracking analytics system for stocks that trade on the stock market. And I said, well, where do you get the information? He said, up here. I said, so what happens if you get sick? What happens if you can't remember? Have you got it written down anywhere? Is it duplicatable? Can you say to somebody, here's my analytics system, here's how it works? He said, no. He says, it's all up here. I said, well, then you haven't got a viable business. All you have is an idea. You need to be able to take that service and make it duplicatable. You need to be able to say, okay, here's what I do, but I can get 10 other people that can do the same thing as me. Because if it's not, it's you, you're in a pretty dangerous position because your business is based on on what you do. So you got to make sure that you're duplicatable. Okay? We'll come back to this one because it's an important one. Promotion. What is your promotion blend? Are you going to do flyers? Are you going to do online? Are you going to do what sort of promotional communications are you going to send out there? Advertising? Who's your target? Publicity? Say again?
Targeted advertisement.
Targeted advertising, is that what you mean? Who is it?
Like I will do targeted advertisement.
Oh, well, for example, if I was selling textbooks,
So I will find people who are like who want a textbook related to that subject, and I will target sure ads to them only.
perfect. How are you going to get them?
Yeah. Like I do like on Facebook. There's an ad option. I search people like that. Like you can optimize Facebook.
Okay, so you're using internet and social media. That's fine. That's good. As long as you know how you're going to get to those target customers. Okay? Your price, your flexibility. Are you going to be one price for all? Are you going to be your one price, your one price, your one price, your one price? You're going to have to figure that out from a pricing standpoint. What discounts and allowances might you have built in there as well? So, the 4 Ps. Of all the 4 Ps, the P that is most under stress, the P that is most under change, is the P for place. It has dramatically been affected by this new thing out there, you've heard of it, called the internet. Things have changed. The marketplace has changed. If this is a traditional distribution model, so raw materials, apples, get manufactured into an apple pie. It's an apple pie. So raw materials get manufactured into an apple pie. They get sent to a wholesaler. This is a wholesaler with some trucks. They're out there selling their product, okay, delivering it door to door to door, and they sell it to a retailer, a store, who then sells it to the end consumer. That's a pretty typical distribution model. That pizza. The pepperoni got made by somebody who sliced it, sold it to a meat wholesaler distributor who sold it, who sold a wholesaler meat distributor who sold it to Pizza, who sold it to you. That bottle of water. Just hold it up, bottle of water. The plastic bottle got sold to Nestle or whoever it is, got sold to your local wholesaler, got sold to the vending machine, got sold to you, the consumer. Almost every product that you buy or use goes through some similar looking model to this, except the times they are a-changing. Enter the internet. Enter the ability of you, the end consumer, to bypass intermediaries, to go backwards in the channel to the wholesaler, backwards in the channel to the manufacturer, backwards in the channel to the raw material supplier. It's happening in almost every industry. Almost every area of business is being affected by this change because 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, I didn't know who these intermediaries are. But because of the internet, I can now find out who's supplying who all the way down the channel. This concept, by the way, is called disintermediation. Long word, good Scrabble word. Disintermediation. These are intermediaries. And disintermediation, if you look it up on Wikipedia, it says it's the removal or combining of channel partners. It's cutting out the middleman. And well, I can give you 2 or 3 pretty good examples. Anybody traveled recently? Anybody flown? Anybody been on a plane, flown somewhere? Where'd you go?
Over the summer, I was in Florida.
In Florida. Did you use a travel agent?
No, actually, I'm not sure. My dad actually got the ticket online.
So he went online. He as a consumer went online, went to Expedia or Travelocity or Cheapo Air, or he went directly to Air Canada or WestJet or whoever it might be and bought the ticket. Didn't use a traditional travel agent. No offense to anybody in the travel agent program. I don't want to discourage anybody because we've got a strong travel program at Seneca. But that industry is being affected by disintermediation, probably more than any other industry out there. Costco. Anybody shop at Costco? Costco, real good example of disintermediation. They take wholesale and retail and put it in the same building. So when you go to Costco, it's a warehouse. It's industrial shelving and cement floors and not very retail friendly. But the concept is that because they've taken one of the stops out of the channel, what happens? Oh, let's go the other way. What happens to the goods every time they stop on the channel? Price goes up. 21% here, 21% here, 21% here, 21% here. Time it gets to the consumer, a dollar item becomes $6. If we take out one of the stops, theoretically, it should reduce the price to the end consumer. Costco, if you do your numbers, are probably somewhere 15% less than traditional grocery retailers. But the caveat is that you gotta buy lifetime supplies. You gotta buy great big honking boxes of stuff, 61 rolls of toilet paper, you gotta take it home and put it in your pantry. You're part of the wholesaling process in order to do that.
There are some companies that actually skip some of the stages. For example, Tesla, the car company, they skip the wholesale and they just have retail.
So you buy it directly.
You can buy it directly from the retail itself.
From the Tesla store.
Tesla store, yes,
Right.
exactly. I don't know if anybody has gone to the Tesla store at Yorkdale.
Yes.
So that's basically, so for example, if you want to buy a Mercedes-Benz, how it works is that you go to a retail Mercedes-Benz dealer, and they get that that car that you ordered from the company, which is from a wholesaler.
Yeah.
But Tesla skips that. Tesla already has the car in the retail, and whatever they have, or maybe you can order it anywhere you want, and it comes straight to you, and you can pick it up from the Yorkdale store right there.
Okay, so
that way it's actually one of the not one of the cheapest cars, but one of the cheapest luxury electric cars that they have. Only one of the reasons is because they skip that.
that's one step in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? So what? How is this going to affect your business? Let's use my business. Training. Frank Foster & Associates is a sales training company. 3 years ago, I swore I would not do any online web-based training. I thought it was not a good way to do training because they were going to bypass me and go to an online presence of some sort. Last year, I did 21 of them. My marketplace changed. You have to go with the flow. So sometimes it's going to affect you. It's going to affect many people in this room. You're talking about doing in-home haircuts? Haircuts. Okay, so you are taking your business, they're coming directly to you, or you're going directly to them. So you're missing the store that they would have to go to, right? So you're a pretty good example of disintermediation. Many people in this room will be affected by this. Proact rather than react. You need to figure out how that's going to affect your USP and what makes you different. Here's the original rules. The original rules used to have to be good, fast, and cheap. Here's today's rules. It's got to be perfect, now, and free. People aren't willing to pay for it. They want it now, and they don't want to have to pay for it. So it's one of the things that's going to affect almost everyone's business in this room. This changes everything. All right, page 10 in your handout. 10 in your handout. That's a worksheet for you to think about what is your competitive advantage? What makes you, what's going to be your strength versus others in the marketplace? What's your competitive advantage? What is going to be important to your customers, and how well do you do it versus your competitors? So that's what that page is. That's what that page is designed to help you to understand. and what gives you your competitive advantage. I want to finish with 2 keys to success. The first I said was an identifiable, sustainable target market. The second is that you need to have, back up, you need to have a strong USP, UVP. You need to be able to describe what is your unique sales proposition, unique value proposition. What makes you different? Why would I buy from you? So part of your plan, this is all on page 11, part of your plan should be understanding who your target market is and what makes you, your company, different than others. This is the summary of all the stuff we've just talked about, where you need to understand all of these components. Your target market, the 4 Ps, who you're going to segment, your differentiation and positioning, and all the external things that might be affecting your business over the next few years. I'll go back to page 11 of the handout because I didn't realize I didn't write it in there. Oh, it's over there. Okay, you can see it. So today, we covered, in a very short period of time, a lot of ground. We said that what is your mission? What's your plan? What's your value? What business model do you plan to use? How will you protect your intellectual property and your assets? What strategic plans will you need? Who will be your target markets? Who's going to be your target segments you're going to go after? How will you find them? How will you qualify them? And the last part is understanding your USP. What makes you different? What is your differentiation? Why would I buy from you? Questions? No questions? None? Everybody good? Mr. Dudley, I will turn it over to you, sir. Oh, thank you. No, thank you, guys.
I want to touch on something. First of all, thank you, Frank.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
That was great. It covered a lot of ground. And indeed, the 2 keys of success are very, very important. Keep those, tattoo them on yourself, because those are important. But I want to jump to the 4 Ps. Because truly, you can work on them and work on them, but they all have to be rowing in the same direction. If one is out of kilter, everything is out of kilter. For example, if you've identified the best market for a really high-end watch, there's people out there that will want to buy this thing. So you build it, it's a $10,000 watch. But you know there's a market there. So you got the product. Not a problem. You price it accordingly, $10,000, you've done research. That's where it's got to be. You got the price. You got the promotion. You go out and you get, celebrity endorsements. You put it in all the right magazines. You have people wearing it at all the right spots. Everyone's excited to get it. All these things are working well. And then you put this in Kmart. They'll go and buy it in Kmart, right? Kmart's everywhere. It's great. They can go anywhere to pick it up. Is that going to work?
No.
Why?
Well, if it's a high-end product, then it's not, then it shouldn't really be available to every consumer. So, for example, say if you want to buy a Rolex watch, it's not you shouldn't go buy it at Walmart. So a Rolex watch, you should go to a jewelry store or a Rolex retailer.
Exactly. So the one of the 4 Ps, even though Kmart has great distribution, you can get into a lot of cities, and that 1 P is out of sync with everything else, your whole strategy is out of sync. You've got to keep that in mind. These have all got to work together. All got to roll in the same direction. Right? So before we finish up tonight, I want to thank Frank again for taking his time and his experience.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.